This is Bill, and it's not my intention with this video to ridicule or embarrass anyone. Lord knows I've made many mistakes in my life, and I certainly wouldn't appreciate anyone posting them on the internet as an example of how not to do something. But I thought this video was too important not to share with you. I've never asked anyone to like or subscribe to my videos, but I'm going to ask if you're thinking about getting an ultralight or you have an ultralight, even if you think you are a great knowledgeable pilot, please watch this video to the very end so that you won't be part of the problem and you will be part of the solution. It turns out I'm part of the problem. I've been making a lot of videos, having a grand old time in ultralights, doing aerobatics and flying low, and not realizing that a lot of people watching the videos were saying, if this idiot can do it, then so can I. And nowhere in my videos did I ever say, well, this idiot got 20 hours of instruction before he ever soloed anything. This idiot got transition instruction before he moved from 172s to ultralights. This idiot had hundreds of hours of ultralight time and instruction from the best pilot I could find before I ever did any aerobatics. And what's happening is people are getting hurt and killed trying to teach themselves how to fly. We recently had a gentleman come to our local airport, had bought a Quicksilver and attempted to fly it with absolutely no instruction with predictable results. I'm going to share that video with you in just a second. I'm also going to share with you some other information that I did not know about flying that everyone needs to know. And we're going to hear from a pilot that did teach themselves how to fly and successfully soloed and with no instruction whatsoever, and eventually became a sport pilot and a competent pilot, and hear what he has to say about it. Please stick around. Where's he going? Where is he going? Where is he going?
There we go. That's as safe as it could be.
Well, so much for that.
One Saturday morning, we were having our EAA meeting at the FBO, and we looked out. There were some young gentlemen putting together a Quicksilver ultralight. So after the meeting, a couple of us went over to talk to them, and they were really nice guys. They were all fellow motorheads. They were into motorcycles and cars. And so we began talking, and it became apparent that the owner of the ultralight had very little training. So this is a very difficult topic because you don't want to turn the person off, but you really want to express to them that what they're doing is very dangerous. So at one point, one of his friends asked if he could use the restroom, and I said, well, I'm going that way. I'll walk you to it. When I got him away from the group, I expressed to him, hey, what your friend is trying to do here is extremely dangerous, and this can go very bad. Please talk him out of it. He told me that they had already tried to talk to him about this, and he had watched a lot of videos on YouTube and was convinced that he was going to be able to fly the airplane without any training, that he was competent to do this. I said, please, I'll take any of y'all flying. I'll put you in touch with an instructor. Let's go about doing this the right way. Fortunately, they weren't able to keep the ultralight running that day. And that week, I found this message on one of my videos on YouTube. Hey, Brock, I've gone kayaking around that island, so it's cool to see it from the air. Thanks again for coming and chatting with us about ultralights today. I was the one with S2000, and the black long sleeves. I took my first intro flight this morning, and I'm going to start working towards my private pilot's license. Eric mentioned you might be down to let me come fly with you. I'm not sure how to get in touch with you, but that sounds like a lot of fun. And I gave him my email address, and we exchanged a couple of emails. I'll share one of those with you now. Good morning, Brock. This is John again from last weekend. I really appreciate you coming over and talking to us Saturday. Despite our best efforts, Dustin won't really listen to us regarding the need for training and taking more time to prep his bird. It's that whole psychological concept of people not giving credence to the insight and opinions of people they've known for a long time because they don't view them as any more knowledgeable about the topic than themselves. Not sure what it's called. He was, however, willing to listen to an outside expert, and I'm hopeful he'll take your advice. I also shared with him a few videos of first flights going very badly in ultralights and encouraged him to share those. On the morning of the flight, I was taking off in my plane, and someone came on the radio and said that the guys with the ultralights looked like they were fixing to fly and asked if I could try one more time to talk them out of it. So I immediately put the plane back in the hangar and went over to talk to them. I mentioned that the wings looked suspect to me. Would he like to punch test them? And that I had a punch tester in my hangar. I would be glad to show him how to use it and let him test the wings. And when I explained to him that if the wings failed, it would make a large hole in his wing, he was not willing to test the wings. And I expressed to him, are you sure you want to find out 1,000 feet in the air that the wings are no good, or would you rather find out on the ground? At this point, I realized there was going to be no way to stop him from making this flight. So we got out of the way and found an area to watch. I had a very sick feeling as I took out my cell phone because here I am, one of these people about to see something terrible happen, and I'm pulling out a cell phone uh, to record it. I didn't know what else to do at this point. I felt like I'd done everything within my power to stop something from happening. I remember I said a quick prayer, Father God, please don't let him get killed. And I took out the cell phone and recorded the video. Here's my analysis of what happened. I missed the very beginning of the takeoff because I was waiting for him to go to the runway. Instead, he took off on the taxiway and later told me that he thought that was the runway. The pilot had intended to crow hop the airplane, so he's not giving it full power. The Quicksilver will fly very slow, but this is the very bottom of the envelope. In fact, it's only flying because it's in ground effect. The problem is once the airplane gets out of ground effect, it's going to begin stalling.
Where's he going? Where is he going?
When the plane began to stall, he should have immediately reduced back pressure on the elevator, gone to full throttle. At this point, the plane's starting a spin to the left, and you can see that he still has back pressure on the elevator and has not applied any right rudder. Now, the Quicksilver has a lot of dihedral in the wing and is very rudder driven. With a little bit of instruction, he would have learned to detect the warning signs of a stall and been able to avoid this.
Where is he going?
It's as safe as it could be.
Not so much for that.
Now, this could have gone much, much worse. Had he started the takeoff run 100 feet further down, he would have hit the Mooney that you see when I paused the video. He could have also hit the FBO or the power lines behind the FBO. Worse still, he could have got higher in the air, a couple of 100 feet, come around to land and stalled it on the landing, in which case it probably would have been fatal. Brett says that's about as safe as this could have gone, and I agree. Now, what if he had been successful and got back down on the ground safely without damaging the airplane? Well, this is the part that's kind of hard to talk about. I don't care if you are the best stick and rudder man on the planet. You can land your ultralight on a postage stamp and you can do all sorts of aerobatics and outfly anyone. You might still be a terrible pilot. Ultralights enjoy a terrible reputation in the aviation community, and there's a reason for that. Please listen to what the CFI has to say about this incident. Okay, I'm with Brett Currenton. Brett, this wasn't the first incident you've seen with ultralights, is it?
No, this is one of, I think, probably 6 at this airport.
Tell us what you've seen in the past.
Well, we've seen a paraglider fold his wing up over here. Basically the same thing we saw yesterday. Guy got extremely slow, stalled on the grass strip, ran into the cone. Had the guy ran through the fence on the south end of the airport. Ran through the barbed wire fence over here. Had another guy that, just like this guy yesterday, had 0 training whatsoever. He got it, witnesses said, about 20 feet off the ground. It rolled over and he hit upside down on the end of the strip, broke a rib, ran a piece of aluminum tubing through him. And basically all this goes back to people either having 0 training or 0 training in ultralight vehicles, which are very draggy.
And you had a close call at night with one also.
I came in here at night, a full hour after dark, right here on the downwind to runway 9, about 100 feet in front of me. My landing light lit up a ultralight with no lights on it whatsoever. I took evasive maneuvers to the left. He took evasive maneuvers to the right, and he got it on the ground and got gone before I could go kill him.
And y'all have gotten calls from like the prison about.
We had a gyrocopter land on the road up at the prison, tore it up there. We had a ultralight leave here and wound up in a tree over around Eclectic. Fire department had to go get him down. And this is just at our airport. I'm also flying into St. Elmo down at Mobile, and the locals down there tell me they've already had at least 2 that they know of go down right there around Mobile. And I don't know if they were the ones that are built by that guy at St. Elmo or they just ultralights, but sometime in the past few months, 2 of them has gone down right there at St. Elmo.
So even if somebody manages to fly, get it off the ground and land safely, they're doing things like flying at night, flying into controlled airspace.
Flying at night, trying to control airspace, just like this guy yesterday. Mm-hmm. He was so ignorant of what he should be doing that he took off on the taxiway, thought he was on a runway. Okay, he only put enough power in to fly 5 feet off the ground is the only thing that saved him. He just didn't get high enough to hurt himself. But he didn't know how to get it on the ground, so he never pulled the power. He just hit the ground with power on.
All right. Thank you, Brett.
Yep.
Now, it's bad enough when pilots do things out of sheer ignorance, but we also have a growing number of pilots out there that are doing things they know are wrong. Watch this video. I don't have words for what you just saw, but let me share with you what other people on the Phantom Facebook page had to say about this very video. So what is the problem? Untrained pilots. How do we fix it? Training. I don't know any way to convince anyone other than make videos like this that we need better training. Okay, I'm here with the unicorn, somebody who actually taught themselves how to fly and did it without getting themselves killed. This is my good friend and hangar mate next to me, Bert Sparrow, who has also built many model airplanes, and he's built 2 full-sized flyable airplanes, a Fokker D7 replica and a
Zenith
750, both beautiful. There's videos of the Zenith on both of them on YouTube. I'll put the links in my video so you can see them. But obviously, Bert, you got into real airplanes from an RC background. Is that what gave you the confidence to think, hey, I can do this without any training?
You know, it's funny because I had a couple of friends who were retired military aviators and some that who worked for me. And I knew that when I was flying giant scale RC, I knew the fundamentals of things like, weight and balance and stall recovery, adverse yaw, some of those type things. And so, stupid me, I actually thought I knew enough about flying a real airplane that I'm actually going to put my butt in. And little did I know, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I was actually lucky. I would not recommend anyone else do that. But I did come from 20 years of flying giant scale, even some competition RC, aerobatics and stuff.
So the Quicksilver that we see in this video, that is your first airplane. Where did you find it? How did you come across that?
Do you know? And it's funny because I had just finished building a giant scale P-51, and I had spent between 800 and 900 hours building that thing, pure scale. And one of my friends, a fellow, we were still lieutenant colonels at the same time in the Air Force, and he said, "Man, I spent 450 hours building a Kolb Firestar, and I fly in it, and you spent twice that, and you don't even fly in it." And that got me thinking I could probably get an ultralight. And so I drove from central Alabama over to some cornfield strip over south of Atlanta and watched the guy take off and fly it. And I was like, holy crap. And I happened to know two friends who had a similar airplane here in central Alabama. They didn't give me any flight instruction. I had zero flight instruction. And I stupidly just got in that and just gave her the gun, did some crow hopping, and was so nervous about my first turn that I wasn't worried about ground effect. But so to answer your question, I drove to Atlanta and trailered it, bought it for I think $5,000, and it had a Rotax 447, and that was it, and I was hooked.
Okay, so you flew for 2 years successfully, and one of the keys was you had a friend that was a pilot, and you would kind of fly with him. So he checked the weather and everything, and he made sure you weren't flying in any airspace or during a TFR or anything. What made you decide that you needed to get training?
You know, it's funny because having to me that was indispensable. Having someone who could teach me I had, when you're an RC pilot, you don't know anything about airspace, you don't know anything about comms, you really don't even know anything to do with a compass or things of that nature. And so this guy was a 30-year Air Force heavy navigator, and he would kind of pull me aside and teach me that, give me some of the training like that. And I flew predominantly with him. And there's all kinds of, we have Maxwell Air Force Base's airspace here. We have Montgomery's airspace here, a lot of Class G. And, we were fair weather pilots. And so it was indispensable having someone like that. But I know of plenty of guys who have their plane on a farm and stupidly try to do it themselves. We've run across people like that. So to get to your question, he actually was moving from a Firestar 2 with a 50 horsepower engine to a 100 horsepower upgraded Kolb Mark III. And that was an N-numbered, both those were N-numbered planes. I was an ultralight, and I was flying a fat ultralight, it's true. And I said, wow, instead of flying 40 miles an hour, it would sure be nice to go 70. So I was seeing the appeal of all the guys I flew with I was always pulling up the butt end. I was always in the back. And Cruz was like 20, was 40, and Stahl was like 28. And I wanted to buy his airplane. So I bought his airplane and I sold my Quicksilver ultralight to a farmer from Texas who wanted it to check his farm. And so here I had this N-numbered airplane, in August of 2010. And yes, it was faster, but essentially it was essentially the same. And I knew at the time that it's an N-numbered plane and I had no license. And so I actually flew that thing for several months, and it always bothered me. Not that the FAA was going to ramp check me, but when you're 25 years in the Air Force, integrity is a core value. And the fact that I was flying, even though I retired in 2010, it was the devil on my shoulder.
Yeah. The last thing I was going to say, we could make a whole video out of this topic, but just briefly, you start taking training. What are some of the things that you realized that you didn't know that
Oh,
you,
that's a great point. And little things like the relationship between power and pitch and gaining airspeed and not. And when you're in your butt's in the center of the airplane, it's not like you're flying an RC airplane. That's the biggest thing. Yes, I know adverse yaw. I can feel it. I know leading with rudder or not leading with rudder. But things that you don't know, the radio procedures, and we're at an untowered airport. But if I go to a towered airport, which I don't typically do, but the comm procedures and the aircraft procedures, and even the taxiway and the airport operations, even at a non-towered airport, you just can't be Joe Billy Hillbilly and come in and think you know what you're doing. It is unsafe at the maximum. And then let's see what some other things like altitude. Yeah, the weather. That's another thing. Even though I'm typically a fair weather person, I have flown cross countries, and getting things like calling and getting weather reports or doing a flight plan and things like that, compass, or even things like a sectional, and knowing about we're not that close to the equator, but knowing how the sectionals work and where you can find hazards, and in the magnetic the magnetic as it fits with the longitude and latitude law, you know what I mean, those type things, and the altitude procedures and airspace. It is crazy how much I thought I knew that I didn't know, that once I began my training, and even emergency procedures, don't do it. It could actually kill you, because you don't know the basics, and you think you might. Um, I've known several people during my 15, 18 years of flying now that stupidly just did it.
well, I appreciate your time. Thank you, Bert.
See you, Bill.
Bye. In closing, I'm going to leave you with a couple of thoughts here. One, in the legal field, there's a common saying that a lawyer who represents himself has a fool for a client. I think the same thing could be said about pilots that teach themselves to fly. I'm also a scuba diver, and I'm not qualified for cave diving, but I was in a spring one time and I saw a sign that really made an impact on me about the dangers of diving, and I've made one similar about flying, and I'm going to leave you with that. If you made it this far, thank you for watching this video.